What's up, Doc? Welcome to the Docs Get Money podcast. Are you a badass doctor killing it professionally and has bigger dreams than just clocking in and out of the hospital? Do you want to leave behind a legacy that is as lit as an HBCU homecoming? Want to know how other doctors are getting to the big bag? That's right, making 5, 6, and 7 figures without putting on the white coat? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you're in the right place. I'm your host, Kimberly, but you can call me Kim or KB. I went from being a burnt out and overwhelmed emergency physician to the founder and CEO of 2 six-figure non-clinical companies and beating burnout along the way. I'm also your business coach, here to help you make money moves to change the world. This podcast isn't just about making money, though. It's about leveling up your life, mindset, and bank account so you can build an empire that's as iconic as Beyonce. You ready? Let's get into it. Picture this. You're sprinting out of a building engulfed in flames. The very structure you once revered as a temple of healing now is nothing but a towering inferno of burnout and frustration. Behind you, the endless nights, the thankless shifts, and the corporate medicine structure controlling how you practice are all consumed by the blaze. Up ahead, you see nothing but freedom, clarity, purpose, income, and impact. That's where I come in. And from side hustler to CEO, my signature one-on-one business coaching program, you'll start your own fire by launching your first profitable coaching, consulting, or midterm rental business and make clinical cash in 90 days or less. That's right, 4 or 5 figures in 90 days or less. This is for the doctors who feel like every shift is a dumpster fire, unmanageable, or just out of control. Let me help you rise from the ashes, thriving, and with a business that brings you life instead of sucking it out of you. Ready? Slide into my DMs on Instagram at Dr. Kimberly B with the word out, and let's turn the burnout into the bag. What's up, Doc? Welcome back to a solo episode of the Docs Get Money podcast. I'm so excited to see you guys here. This is a new episode, new format. First time that I'm doing this on camera, so I'm really excited to have you guys back and to actually be able to see and to talk to you face to face, it feels like, for this podcast episode. So again, I'm really, really glad that you're here. Today, I want to talk about something that's been on my mind for a little while, and that is how to turn your sales calls around. Of course, if you're probably listening to this podcast, you are an entrepreneur and a doctor of some sort. And however you may be getting business or getting sales may have a lot to do with sales calls. That's what I specifically teach my clients, and from side hustler to CEO is how to convert clients from just potential clients to actually pay clients using sales calls. So that is a process that I have used, like I said, personally, and what I teach my clients. But I want to talk about how to turn your sales calls around. There's maybe some time when you are in your business and you are noticing that you are not converting sales calls as quickly or as much as that you would want to be. And so that actually happened to me. So I want to share with you my experience of having a lot of bad sales calls and what I did in order to turn those things around, in order to become a successful entrepreneur and then grow from side hustler to CEO, to the now 6-figure business that it is right now as well too. So if this is something that you've been struggling with, if you have been struggling with your sales calls, or you don't know what to say on sales calls, or you have a process and you feels like things just aren't working, this episode is really going to be for you. I want this to be some actionable steps and actionable advice that you can take right now so that you can start closing your sales calls and start bringing more money in your business so you can make medicine optional and not absolutely mandatory for you to survive and to be a happy, happy doctor. So, with all that being said, I want to give you a little bit of a background of what I'm talking about here. Um,
So back in July of 2023, actually, I launched my program from Side Hustler to CEO with really a true passion of seeing other doctors grow non-clinical businesses. Sherwood Properties was in the middle of its first full year of business, and um, I was really enjoying what I was doing. I was enjoying working with my cleaner, working with my in-person assistant, and I kept seeing the revenue coming in, and I was really enjoying what I was doing. So I decided to become a business coach and help other doctors start their own businesses, whether that be a midterm rental business like I have created, or maybe that was a coach or some sort of a consultant or other service provider. But whatever it was, just as long as it was non-clinical, I knew I could help somebody. So I launched on July 1st, and to be honest with you, that was probably the hugest launch that I've ever had. And I feel like I need to have a whole separate podcast episode about me launching from side hustler to CEO. But I'll say all that to say that I had over 300 people across social media platforms, from Facebook, from Instagram, from LinkedIn, reach out to me and raise their hand and tell me that they were interested in the program and working with me potentially. And so that led me to be having a lot of sales calls. Let me say this: I know for a fact that when you are a brand new coach, when you are basically opening any type of new business, to have a flood of potential clients to just be at you and ready to work with you is a dream, of course, but the actuality can be a little bit intimidating and overwhelming. So, like I said, I feel like there's a whole separate podcast episode I need to record on that. But that's definitely what happened to me. So, because I had so many potential clients, I had to have a lot of sales calls. I'm so happy and I'm so grateful that I was able to close my very first client and make my first 12K in my business was within the first week of me launching that offer. And then I signed a second client later on in the month, probably about a week or two later. But I would say I had over 25 sales calls with people between the month of July and August. And I heard so many no's. It just started to become like a sea of badness for me, of just hearing the word no, not even wanting to get on a sales call, not even wanting to talk about my business anymore because I felt like I was just wading through just hearing people say no and the emotions of that and the feelings of that. And so I ended up temporarily kind of shutting the door, shutting the front door to the business, and just started to work with my two clients and really try to help them get results and try to help them to grow, their businesses as well too. Um, but then when it started to get a couple months later, I decided, like, I want more. I still want to serve. I felt like there were so many people that had reached out to me that wanted to help and that wanted to build their own business, or they just wanted to figure out what was next for themselves and find a way out of just making money just by wearing the white coat and going to the hospital or showing up at the clinic or whatever their practice setting was. So I realized that I needed to figure out something. I had to take a moment and look back and see what was actually going on in my business. It's not that I couldn't attract a lead. Clearly, I had attracted hundreds of leads and people that were interested in what I had to say. My messaging had absolutely no problems or no issues. Once I actually looked at exactly what was going on, which was I could get people on a sales call, but then the calls were not converting. That's where I was losing the potential sale. That's when I had to realize, okay, what is actually going on here? So, saying all that to say, um, this is the process that I did, and these are some of the steps that I took. And like I said, I hope this is helpful for you and actionable for you if you are stuck as well too. But the first thing that I did is I knew for a fact that I needed to evaluate. I was talking to my coach. My coach was giving me tons of coaching around this time about my sales calls and what I was going through because she saw me emotionally just wrecked about these things. I had continued to bring it to coaching and to continue to talk about it because it seems like my sales calls were, like I said, just a one big ball of badness. There was over 25 of them that I had heard no's to, and being rejected is painful, very, very painful, especially when you are on calls with people that you know that you can help and you're listening to their problems and you're listening to their issues and you're like, okay, I just know how to solve it. And when you try to get the solution and try to offer the solution to them and then they still say no, it's like, okay, what's actually going on here? What's happening? All of those things. So I was getting a ton of coaching from this. And one of the things that she always emphasizes, and I'm so grateful to her, is that evaluation is the most important thing that you can do as an entrepreneur to kind of to find out the root cause of issues and to solve for what could potentially be the problem. The problem with me and wanting to evaluate my sales calls from that point forward is just like, how do I listen to over 25 um, m- times that I've been told no. I that just felt like a million daggers in my chest. It felt like the most terrible thing to do. And so she threw me a bone. And I'm grateful for her that, but she helped me to simplify it. She was like, "You know what? Kim, why don't you just take the last four sales calls that you had and be able and just able to just evaluate those." That's what I found super, super helpful is first starting with some evaluation. But I guess I should say before that, I think the biggest thing is going back to what I was saying before, as far as how terrible I felt, and to say that I'm a business coach and I can't close sales calls and I don't feel like I'm getting the results that I want to get because I'm not being able to close sales calls. There was a lot of trauma that was there. There was a lot of emotions. There was a lot of bad hurt. I cried. I hated getting on the phone. I even started to hate answering the phone or responding to text messages or doing anything just because me and my Pisces dramatics, but at the same time, it just felt so bad to think about like all of the times I had been rejected and still knowing that I could and still wanted to help the person that I talked to, but for some reason, like it was no, for some reason at the time, I realized that I could not close him on a sales call. So, saying that to say first, I had to specifically and intentionally look at my thoughts about how I was thinking about sales calls and look at the feelings that I was currently feeling. I was definitely frustrated. I was pissed. I was really embarrassed about, again, me being a business coach and I'm supposed to be teaching sales and I can't sell on a sales call. Those were the negative thoughts that were consistently going through my brain. It made me, like I said, even hesitant to pick up the phone or even to talk or even to make an offer to see if anyone else would be interested in working with me and from Side Hustler CEO. Um, Acknowledging that those were my thoughts and were my feelings first were super important because I realized that I could not move forward with improving my process of by starting with evaluation until I went back and I healed some of those wounds that I had along the way. And so I had to start with being vulnerable with myself and offering myself some love and offering myself some forgiveness. Again, this was my very, very first time launching a business coaching program. This is my first opportunity as a business coach to offer coaching and offering business help to other doctors. So I had to find ways to give myself and offer myself a lot of grace first. And then I was able to, like I said, forgive myself for maybe, like I said, feeling some negative emotions on the call or getting frustrated with people on the call, getting frustrated with myself. I just had to forgive the fact that there was a lot of things that were both in my control and out of my control. I had to forgive myself for having over 25 bad sales calls. I had to again realize that, Kim, you are a new coach. This is a new opportunity for you. This is your not this is not a failure. This is your first attempt in learning. This is a big first attempt, but it's again not a fail. It is a first attempt in learning. And once I was able to truly forgive myself from all of the terribly bad calls that I had, the awkward, the embarrassing calls of like, when I say embarrassing, let me be clear more specifically. The way I launched from side hustler to CEO, I made it very like mysterious, and I said that it was a secret project, and if anybody was interested that they needed to comment a keyword, and then I would give them more details about my secret project. And so when I finally got onto sales calls, there was no opportunity that I noticed that people actually had to find out like what they were signing up for, why they were even getting on the phone with me. There were even no reminders sitting out that I had sales calls, or that person had a sales call. So I'd call them or text them, and then they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I forgot I had a call with you. Like, what is this even about?" And that made me feel, like I said, so embarrassed. Like they didn't prioritize um my offer or them raising their finger, because that was the key word at the time, in order for them to receive help. So I had a lot of thoughts about that, but I realized again I was not clear, and forgiving myself for being brand new and not having a fully thought out, fully planned out process for people to go through in order to say yes or to say no. That was the biggest thing that I need to give myself forgiveness around. So that what I would say, before I even could get to the place of evaluation, I had to sit with my emotions and my thoughts, and really give myself some grace and forgive myself for what I was doing or what I had done in the past. And then in that way, I was able to move forward and evaluate. And like I said, Dr. Kimmy, my coach, um, said to me, "Kim, you know what? All you just need to do is, why don't we start with the last four calls? Your last four calls are likely going to be the ones that are the best, and you can probably glean the most out of it. Of course, you're not going to glean a lot from a sales call that you had maybe the first or second week of you launching the offer, but now that this is like the second month, the third month of this kind of going on, stick with the last four calls and just listen to those and see what you can glean from there. So, that is what I started to do. And then the other thing I just started to do is start to notice some patterns. So as I was evaluating those last four sales calls, and even looking at the calls that actually closed with the clients that I was actually working with, I noticed that I was trying to close people in just one call, have one conversation with them, and then get them from, no, or, I'm here on a sales call, to a yes. And what I actually saw is that it actually took multiple calls. It took either two or sometimes even three calls with a follow up to actually get that person to say yes. I felt at the time, at first, that that was a problem, because I was being taught to just have one call and close that person on one call. Then, I was doing something wrong. But in the state of forgiving myself and in the state of noticing that what was currently working, I decided to then adapt my funnel and adapt my calls for that. And so I have now a two call system that I do that is really a discovery call, which is much, much shorter at first. So then I can give people the opportunity to get to know me. I can also get to know them, really understand their problem, figure out if this is somebody I can help. And then if I am able to get through that conversation with a strong um, yes, that I can help them, then I can ask them, "Hey, would you like to have another conversation with me that's a little bit longer? And I can talk a little bit more about how I can help you." And that changed everything for me. And we'll go a little bit deeper into that. That was the beginning of sales called Alchemy. At that point, when I started to notice what was working, and really being able to change my sales process and my sales calls, in order to adapt for those processes, like I said, that was already working in the first place. The other thing, that breaking down my sales process into two phone calls or to two calls, that it allowed me to think. On sales calls previously, when I was just trying to close somebody in one call, I felt like there was so much going on in my brain. And I wanted to address so many different things and I wanted to say all of that. I just felt like there was so much happening inside that I could not actually keep the pace and keep still connected with the client the way I want it to be. And so having the time to have two separate calls and having separate situations gave me some time to listen to actually hear what the other person was saying, and then also to process what happened on the first call and evaluate it. And maybe on the next call, then I can clearly articulate or clearly ask some questions that might have come up for me on that first call, etc. So that was one of the big things that helps me tremendously in my mind, which is probably an undiagnosed ADHD mind mixed probably with some undiagnosed anxiety of just having so many thoughts just firing in my brain during sales calls. That giving myself the time to have two and having two opportunities to talk to that person really, really helped me tremendously to not only slow down the sales process, but actually help me to convert more calls later on in the end. So that was what I did. The other thing that I was doing before that I decided to change when I was evaluating is that I was doing them actually on the phone. And another thing, the way that I had, of course, launched, it was a whole secret project and you have to comment a keyword and all of those things. I had a lot of thoughts about being this weird lady on the internet, and is somebody going to trust me? Are they going to think that this was a scam? All of that. However, being nervous and not really wanting to necessarily connect with people face to face on a sales call because I had documents in front of me and I had my script and I had all of my things. I wanted to be more comfortable being myself. It actually started to work against me. I felt like more people were asking me on older sales calls, like, who are you? And what is this? And what is this about again? And possibly thinking that I am some weirdo on the internet because they're just get a phone call from some woman asking them, hey, do you want to, you want a business coach? You want to start a business? I can help you. That's how it felt to me. That's definitely how it felt. And so what I did instead is start conducting them on video and just having them on Zoom. And so the best thing about me changing from just strictly phone to video is that they could actually see me. They could feel my energy when I was kind of just saying, and I might sound like I'm disinterested when I'm actually totally interested and just taking notes and like I'm just having thoughts in my head. I know that my face is very expressive. And so I knew I would be able to connect with people more. And so that's what I really wanted to do is really put a point of connection. And that helped me to realize that I'm not some strange woman on the internet trying to scam people, because like I said, that was a very pervasive thought that I continued to have at the beginning part of my business. But it was really one of the only, I realized too that that was the only one of the only touch points that they had with me is actually connecting with me and seeing my face. All they may have had was just some messages in their DMs and an email confirmation that I would call at a certain time, and that was really it. And then they didn't know any other pieces of information about me. Um, I wanted to make sure that people just knew that I was a human being reaching out to them as another human being. And that really made me feel a lot more comfortable and feel more connected with the client as well too. So that's the one of the things that I did is I evaluated tremendously and broke down my process into two calls and really gave people the opportunity to connect with me more, like I said, instead of just voice as the video and voice, which is of course the wave of everything. But me being new and me being afraid to get on the call or get on the video as a brand new coach, I'm glad that that was a barrier that I went ahead and put down. Plus, I had to realize that my strong suit is actually video, and I have had tons of opportunities to be on camera. I have a theater background. So I should use the camera and I should use um, video to really express who I am and really make sure that I am leaning into my strong suit and my strengths as well too. So continuing the evaluation, because this is what evaluation is really, really what turned my sales calls around. Is I started listening back, like I said, to my successful calls. I started helping other people with sales calls as well. So in my coaching container, I was helping other coaches, go through their sales calls. I was critiquing their sales calls and analyzing their sales calls with them, and I was learning so much. I also listened to my coach's old sales calls and understood why certain things were converting and why certain things did not for some reason. But the biggest thing that I think that shifted for me during this whole evaluation process is that I started to really pay attention and to notice my thoughts and my feelings again while I was on a sales call and while I was having a conversation with people. And that takes some time to kind of be that meta, and it takes you evaluating and listening back to your sales calls in order for you to do that. But I started to say, well, Kim, what are you thinking about yourself right now? What are your thoughts about your entrepreneurship? What are your thoughts about being a coach? What are your thoughts about from side hustler to CEO? What is your overall desire and what is your overall want? I had to go back to what I was believing about myself and my abilities as a coach. Sherwood Properties last year, crossed the six-figure mark for the first time in revenue. But when I was launching from Side Hustler CEO, it wasn't there yet. We were doing well financially and the team was doing well financially, but there was a lot of things that were going on over the summer because that is a very busy season for short-term and mid-term rentals. And so I was doing all of the entrepreneurial things, problem solving and troubleshooting. I had to talk well to myself and really analyze who I was as a businesswoman, and realize that some of the ways that maybe I was thinking about myself and thinking about how my other business was running, I had to see that it was also trickling into my sales calls and my thoughts about myself as a coach as well too. I felt like I was a becoming a seasoned entrepreneur in Sherwood Properties on one hand, but then of course I'm a brand new entrepreneur in one aspect with a brand new offer. But having to remember that I was able to grow Sherwood Properties very quickly, that I do have a profitable business, that I have a team of people that are supporting me, and that is more than an average doctor has, especially a black woman, emergency physician by any means and standards. So I had to talk a lot better to myself. I had to run back my own evidence bank and remind myself of all of the things I had been able to overcome, not just in the entrepreneurial space, but just in general. The fact that I failed the MCAT 3 times and still was able to become a doctor. The fact that my one shot at medical school was a Caribbean medical school, and I took that and was able to still match into my number one specialty. The fact that I was able to be a part of the very first class of emergency medicine residents to graduate from my program in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm not just your regular average person. And I had to continuously tell myself that, not just to hype my own head up, but to build a deep resolve in myself that, Kim, you know what to do, even if you feel like you don't know what to do. Because you are used to overcoming obstacles and you're used to challenging yourself and you're used to doing other things that are outside of the box that are different. You have a track record of success. So just because this is going wrong or this is not going the way that you want it to be right now, that does not inherently devalue your worth, your experience, your story, or anything else like that. So starting to speak to myself in a better way was one of the more important things. And I consistently worked on that, not just on sales calls, but I continuously affirmed to myself when I looked in the mirror, Kim, you are an amazing businesswoman. You are an amazing coach. I started coaching other coaches and helping my peer coaches as well too, and realizing that I do have a natural knack and natural ability for coaching. I reminded myself of my skills by looking at my strengths finder. And my very first strength on strengths finder is actually restorative, which means you love solving problems, Kim. So this is what you do as a coach. This is what you do as an entrepreneur every day. This is what you do as a physician every day. You are born for this. And so, again, as I started to speak to myself better, not just while I was on a sales call and being very mindful of my thoughts on sales calls, but just mindful of my thoughts of myself in general as an entrepreneur, as I was going through my day to day, as I was working in the hospital, as I was working in Sherwood Properties, as I was coaching my clients that I still had, and from Side Hustler to CEO, but to continuously reiterate that I have the sauce. I am the sauce, that I know what to do, helped me to tremendously turn my sales calls around, because it was really me working on my self concept and who did I truly believe that I was and who did I want to be. So that's what helped me as well too. So evaluation came in a whole lot of different ways. But I also, like I said, more specifically wanted to say that I evaluated my thoughts and my feelings. Um, Another thing that I did, which I think is was super helpful for me, is I simplified it, simplified everything. Um, I have the tendency sometimes to be very long winded, very verbose, can be kind of chatty and talkative. And when you are handling or trying to help someone to achieve a result that they, for some reason, are not able to achieve on their own, you have to make it as simple for them as possible. Um, the brain does not like to be complicated. It doesn't like to do hard things. If it feels like it has too many steps or you got to do too much ahead of time or do all of those things, nobody wants to do that. So it is my job and it is your job as an entrepreneur to actually break down your solution in the most simple, easy, bite-sized solutions as possible. So, saying all that to say, I noticed when I was evaluating my sales calls that I was kind of long-windedly explaining my solution and kind of taking tangents that really didn't matter to the actual problem that the person was bringing to me on the sales call. So I started to ask myself this one question: what is the simplest way that I can get the answer that I need? I stopped asking so many questions about specifics and started asking more open ended questions, and then getting to more direct questions and to understand specifically what was going on and nailing down on the things that I knew that was important. That helped me a lot because it made it, just like I said, step by step. So by being able to take things and go one, two, three, or step by step, that creates a lot of safety and security for people on a sales call when they already feel as though this is a nerve-wracking environment. We're eventually going to talk about money. It is a naturally uncomfortable environment. So to create safety is that I am not here to help to complicate your life. I am here to help simplify things for you and show you the simplest way for you to get started on your business or for to making more money or whatever the problem the person was bringing to me on the sales call was. And so again, simplification and being very mindful and having simple and direct questions that I was asking in order to get specific and direct answers helped me as well tremendously. So, simplification and keeping things simple, honestly, was also another tremendously helpful thing that helped me to, again, turn my sales calls around. The last thing that I will say that I did, which I feel like should be number one, was the main reason or the main thing that I did that I believe that helped me tremendously to turn my sales calls around, is to remember my why. As in, why was I even saying that I'm a business coach now? Um, Again, at the time when I launched from side hustle to CEO, life was not going as well for me personally as it was going professionally or business wise. Sherwood Properties, like I said, was having a summer, but we were making money and it just seemed like there was a lot of things that were going wrong. But I was putting out the fires and I had a great team and I was getting through the things. Um, my personal life, however, I was going through a terrible divorce that had been dragging on and on. I was working locums assignments, so that kept me away from the Memphis area more than it had me actually at home. And I felt like I was constantly running and I was constantly chasing safety for myself and security for myself. The relationship that I was in became physically threatening to me. My former partner started stalking me, calling my job, all kinds of different things where I felt physically threatened. And so safety was something that was really, really, really important to me. But saying all that to say, life was continuing to life, but I still wanted more. And I was still really happy at the end of the day when I looked at Sherwood Properties, my business that I named after my grandfather, and on the in the purpose of leaving a legacy in this world. And I was so, 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 so proud. Like I said, so proud of it that I had to remember why I was trying to now become a business coach. The feeling of joy, the feeling of pride, the feeling of optimism, the inspiration that I was feeling was unmatched. And especially at a time where I was already coming out of burnout. And then, like I said, going through the divorce that I was going through, I wanted other doctors to feel like that. I wanted other doctors to realize and they could say that they had other options other than just walking into the hospital or walking into the clinic and being forced to just do their job and to kind of go home and just be another cog in the wheel. And that may feel dramatic for some of you that's listening, but I think a lot of you understand what I mean by that. It just can kind of seem like I had someone even say they're golden handcuffs in a way. But I wanted to make sure that doctors knew that there were no such thing as golden handcuffs. Create your own golden handcuffs to your own job and to your own opportunities. And so I wanted more specifically to help other doctors to create that level of freedom in their own lives, to build a source of wealth and income that they can pass down, because we all know that we cannot pass down our medical degrees to our children, to our grandchildren. I wanted to remind people that they have so many other natural gifts that they have, that they've always had all along, but we know in the healthcare system that we are constantly being told what we're doing wrong, how we can improve, press gaining scores, all of these other things about our being critiqued and not actually being shown that we are awesome and we are incredible and we can use these natural skills to help other people and still make great money and be ethical with it as well too, if you become a coach or consultant or even start your own midterm rental business, but more specifically entrepreneurship. When you become an entrepreneur, when you decide to become a CEO, that's really the opportunity to really, like I said, be your full self. And I wanted to help other doctors in a deeper, more meaningful way. Sherwood Properties was doing that in some in the capacity that I had created to. I was housing other traveling medical professionals. I was giving them beautiful homes away from homes while they were staying with me in Memphis. I had many, many five-star reviews, but still I wanted more and I wanted to go deeper. So, saying all of these things to say, Doc, that I had to go back when I was in the thick of the frustration of the entrepreneurial side of being a business coach and when I was on these sales calls and remember Why am I even offering sales calls? Why am I even a coach? Why am I even here? And once I reconnected to my intention and reconnected to my why and reconnected with the reason that I even started Sherwood Properties and even the reason why I wanted to become an entrepreneur in the first place, that helped me tremendously to change my mindset about getting on a sales call and then actually getting those clients to close. So, remembering your why and remembering why you even started your business, why you are even making the offer that you are making. Remember who you're talking to, who your ideal person is, your ideal client to work with you is. That's what really helped me to sink back into this is not just about money. This is not just about making more money. Yes, that's going to be part of it, but it is really about serving others and serving doctors in a deeper way than we've ever been served before. We are always looked at as the ones that have all of the things. We make six figures. What could ever be the problem with a doctor who's making all you make all this money? What's wrong with that? But I know that truly and deeply what can be missing for people. And again, I started from side hustler to CEO to help the doctor that is burnt out like I was, or just even wondering, you know what? I know I'm awesome, but I want to do something else. Like, what's next for me? What's next on my journey? And connecting again with my intention and connecting back with my why was super important. And like I said, I would say number one reason or way I turned my sales calls around. So, that being said, you guys, let me give you a brief overview of what happened. So, after I did this, I ended up, like I said, temporarily in my mind, my front door was closed. I'm like, I'm just going to work with my clients and that's going to be it. So it was in October that I started opening up the doors again and opening up and talking to people again about from Side Hustler CEO and making posts and started marketing the offer again and started making offers to help people and getting on sales calls with people. And it was back when I started to intentionally, okay, working on my thoughts, working on my self concept, remembering my why, keeping things simple, and making sure that everything that I did, every call that I had, every communication that I had, I evaluated it because the root word of evaluation is value. I don't see the value in what I'm doing and finding even more value in my sales calls and from what I'm currently doing, then how am I ever going to grow and make them even more valuable and even more powerful and even more able for me to convert a client on those sales calls. So that took me to October, like I said, and when I got on my very first couple sales calls, I still didn't convert. However, the process was so much better for me. I felt like I was giving more value, I was giving more opportunity. I felt so much more connected to the doctor that I was talking to on the other screen. I felt more confident in myself as a coach. And I took one other step is still just kind of slowing things down for me, not trying to rush and to say anything that is, oh, just trying to get the next word and having the exact right thing to say, taking a lot of pauses in the process, in breathing and following my brand new process, which I had developed, sales called Alchemy. That was really what took me over, and I was able to then close two clients. I had two calls a month, and then I closed those two clients. So I had 100% sales call conversion for the month of October after that time as well too. So that's a process that I did to turn my sales calls around. Um, it was, like I said, hard work, but it was not physically hard. It was mentally hard. It was emotionally hard for a little bit. Um, Giving myself the opportunity to, though, make sure that I was taking my thoughts and my feelings back to my coach, taking it to other peer coaches, to my good friend Timmy, who is going to be on the podcast soon, and I'm going to be on her podcast very soon as well too. She's a money mindset coach. I had to really come to her and say, "Hey, girl, my mindset is like not the best. Can you help me?" And really getting my brain examined and helping myself examine my brain from a bunch of different angles as well. That is what helped me to turn my sales calls around. So, if you're listening to this episode, this isn't just about sales calls. Let me be clear about that. If you are getting if you're not getting the results that you want in your business in some way, shape, form, or fashion, maybe it is your sales calls aren't converting, or you feel like you're not getting any leads because of the marketing that you're currently doing, or if you even feel like your clients aren't getting the results that they are needing to get. Truly invite you to take some of these gems and take some of these nuggets that I'm sharing with you here about remembering your why and simplifying things and evaluating what's going on and asking for help and asking for coaching more specifically, that can really be what shifts everything for you. And when you take these steps, I guarantee you will make more money once you do that. But it's all about, like I said, getting in the thick of it and problem solving and really, like I said, turning your situation around. So if you are a doctor and you are currently hustling, side hustling, or you're trying to grow your own six-figure business, seven-figure business, I am here to help you. This is specifically the work that we do in From Side Hustler to CEO, where I help to remind you about your why. I help you with the evaluation process. I walk you step by step through sales call alchemy so that you don't have to go through the 25 plus bad sales calls that I have, but you will get the secret sauce that I have now in order to close clients on calls. So if you are a coach, if you're a consultant, if you're a service provider, or if you're even growing your own midterm rental business, I really encourage you to reach out to me if you feel like you're stuck in your business. I'm happy to help you. I'm happy to get on a call with you and see how I can help you further in From Side Hustler to CEO. I strongly encourage you to reach out to me. My website is KimberlyBrownMD.com, or you can hit me up on Instagram at Dr. Kimberly B. I'm so, so grateful that you were able to join me on this podcast today. And please hit me up. If you're listening to this episode, send me a screenshot of it. Let me know something that you took away from it. More specifically, I want this episode to help you make more money in your business. So, again, I'd love to have you as a listener. I'd love to have you as a client. And thank you so much for listening to the Docs Get Money podcast. And I will see you on the next episode. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Docs Get Money podcast. New episodes drop every Thursday wherever you find your favorite podcast. Share, comment, follow, and subscribe to the Docs Get Money podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to know more, visit me, Dr. Kimberly Brown, at KimberlyBrownMD.com, and be sure to follow me at Dr. Kimberly B on Instagram. And until next time, let's go get this money, honey.